Farmers in arid and semi-arid areas adopt new ways of farming to minimize food insecurity in their area and also to support President Kenyatta's Big Four agenda. Is artificial womb a reality or a dream? What does this mean for the next generation of babies? Could China become the next big thing in African economy? Or rather, what is China really up to? Amazon rainforest record high numbers of wildfires this year. What impact does this have on the wild climatic change? Live from I24 TV Newsroom, my name is Yara Jack. Then we welcome all our viewers from Nairobi and across the world. This is the Specs News. Thank you for joining us. We shall be with you for the next 30 minutes. Be sure to stay tuned for news updates. And on to our first developing story of the day. Science and technology is advancing day by day, but what do we say about technology that will bring a new phase into giving birth? Could this be a breakthrough for mothers and premature babies? Is artificial womb a reality or a dream that is yet to be achieved? Our reporter Stephen Mutinda has more on this.
Some women experience pregnancy and childbirth as joyful, natural and fulfilling. Others find themselves recoiling in horror at the physical demands of carrying and sustaining a child in their womb, and even more, labor brutality of giving birth. Globally, premature babies is the common cause of death among newborn babies. Science and technology has come in handy either to bring a solution to this problem or raise ethical questions about the future of babies. Scientists are developing the first human artificial womb that could come to reality in the next 10 or 5 years. This could save the lives of premature babies. The device will allow pregnancy by growing a fetus outside the body of an organism. What does this technology mean to us? We spoke to Reverend Mutinda, who tells us his thought.
Morally, I would say personally, I am open to this. As a pastor, as a mature man, I have sat with couples who have tried getting babies and it hasn't worked. I have sat with people who have shed tears because of the very many miscarriages that they have gone through. And if an artificial womb would work, I think this is a great breakthrough. It might be hard for somebody who has never had problems having babies to understand this concept. And they might be sometimes even the wrong people to ask. But talk to somebody who has gone through a lot of trouble. If there is a way they can get this baby to survive, they would be very happy. Morally, I personally think there is no problem. But going to problems, yes, there might be problems. And in fact, science itself shows that there are some complications that may come with such babies. Some of them might have problems developing their eyesight, even hearing, or just the normal natural reflexes that are considered natural because of the kind of separation from the normal womb in the mother. And you know, when a baby is in the womb, there's also that connection, with the mother, so that the baby can understand when the mother is happy or when the mother is going through struggles. And this prepares the child emotionally, as opposed to when this child is just hooked up to a machine that has no emotions. So sadly, yes, there are some of these effects. For example, they say that there are higher chances of developing cerebral palsy as a result of a child growing up in that artificial womb. And yet, for me, it is science worth trying.
Reporting for Spec News, I'm Stephen Mutinda.
Joining us live is Stephen Mutinda. Stephen, tell us, how are people reacting to this new technology that will bring a new face to motherhood? How is the society taking it?
Thank you so much, Yar, for having me tonight. Well, it is true that it's a burden for many Kenyans to bear a 9 months pregnancy, with the risks that goes there and the burden and the health changes that come with it. It is a scary phenomena for some of the Kenyans, and as much as this technology has been received with open arms by some, it seems to give Kenyans confidence that they can still have children without having to bear the risks and the time that comes with normal pregnancy. You want to understand that some people have to seek maternity leave for them to be able to deliver within the time, and as well maintain their job. And this has been kind of devastating Kenyans, and so they seek confidence in having to still bear children through this new technology. Well, I know there are ethical questions that will come up with it. There's also been some religious questions about it, as whether this is what God wants, from the religious side. But again, if it provides solution for many Kenyans, they feel it's the way to go, and it's the way they should go. So we are waiting, and we are waiting for the government approval of this new invention, if it's going to be adopted in hospitals, and this will also curb infant mortality among Kenyans, which is on the rise due to immature born.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Dr. Francis Odawa is an obstetrician and a gynecologist. Okay, so Dr. Odawa, can you tell us what is this artificial womb technology that we're talking about?
Technology would be a technique that helps women who do not have uteruses, or whose uteruses have a problem and are not able to carry a baby. In that case, then you are trying to create something that mimics the uterus, or a woman's uterus. That is artificial womb technology. As we know it today, when a woman is not able to carry a baby, but she probably has eggs, it is possible to harvest her eggs, fertilize with her man's sperms or any other sperms. Because this is her eggs, it means genetically the baby that is going to be born out of it is her baby genetically, but then she's not able to carry it because she doesn't have a womb to do that. So you would put that in somebody else's womb. That is called surrogacy. That is what is presently practiced. But then you can create whatever it is that you are calling artificial womb to be able to do what a natural woman's womb does, to carry that baby. That is what you are referring to as an artificial womb. Okay. Of course, it is important technology in a situation where a woman is not able to carry a baby in her own womb for whatever reason, either because that womb was removed or the womb is damaged badly, like I would consider a situation where the womb is pasted together, Asherman syndrome, or endometrial synechia that you cannot be able to open up, or it has had severe fibroids that make it so, blocked or obliterated, and it cannot carry a baby.
Okay.
Or some women actually are born with small uteruses that cannot just develop. They're just born like that, and yet they have normal ovaries. So the ovaries can be stimulated to produce eggs. You get the eggs, fertilize them, and put in somebody else's womb, or in this artificial womb you're talking about.
Okay, thank you for that. So, do you think this artificial womb would bring a new face to motherhood?
Indeed, necessity is the mother of invention. You are a woman who desires to have a child. You have everything else except the womb to carry this baby. What option do you have? If there is anywhere you can put that egg of yours after being fertilized to grow, so that you can see your own genes in terms of the outcome of a baby, then that is probably the way to go. So if this has been a desired feeling that such a thing can be created to be able to assist women who have this problem, then that is the way. I mean, after all, the world, technology, science is evolving. All right? Human beings, in my own mind, are created by God. But then the things that happen around us and that make us be what we want to be and achieve our desires in life are part of the evolution that we bring forth, or that God enables us to create around us to be able to make our lives more meaningful. So is the artificial womb.
Okay, so do you think artificial womb will reduce the rate of premature?
I am not 100% certain, but it all depends on the intervention you're trying to institute or put in place. Why do you want to put this baby or the fertilized ovum into the artificial womb? Is it because the woman is not able to carry the baby to term? Such situations are usually very difficult situations, because one of them is like, for instance, hypertensive state of pregnancy, a situation whereby the placenta ages and then the baby cannot survive beyond a certain level. If this technology is going to enable to create an environment that can further the progression of that pregnancy to a higher level, or to near term, as we call it, when the baby's evolutions are coming out of scientific innovations, and this is happening. We didn't have in vitro fertilization until just the other day, and couples who hitherto could not be able to have children at all now carry babies home. Some carry them home as late as 53 years of age with 2 babies at a go. This could not happen before. In fact, I state it categorically today that no couple should fail to have their desire for motherhood or fatherhood or parenthood with present technology. No couple at all, anywhere in the world, can be assisted to have children that they can ascribe to be their own using technology.
And moving on to our second story, climate change and climate variability have become more recent in Kenya, affecting the livelihood of small-scale farmers and farmers in arid and semi-arid areas. This has increased food insecurity and forcing farmers to come with new ways of farming. Our correspondent Beth Shugi has more on this.
Agriculture is the backbone of every country, as it is through it that the nation is fed. In Kenya, the issue of food insecurity remains high, as the country is mainly arid and semi-arid, which means little rainfall and minimal harvest. However, as one of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, the Ministry of Agriculture is encouraging farmers to grow crops that are drought resistant to ensure they produce enough for domestic consumption as well as trading. Farmers in arid and semi-arid areas are also adopting smart farming methods as a way of increasing food security.
Arid areas, we can compare this to Egypt. You see, some countries like Egypt, they export a lot of food and fruits and all that, and yet the land is very dry. So to learn to borrow a leaf from even Egypt, we can be able to curb this issue of hunger and scarcity of food.
As Kenyans continue to appeal for the government to help them, the issue of food insecurity in this country remains unsolved. The question is, could adopting smart farming in arid and semi-arid areas be the solution to this phenomenon? Reporting for Specs News, I am Beth Gaishobi.
Joining us live is our expert, Mr. Paul Kibogo, the CEO and founder of Lee Organic Fertilizers, and also is an economist. Paul Kibogo, welcome on board. And on to our first question. Paul, what do you think is the future of farming in arid and semi-arid areas, especially that there are areas that are mostly affected when there is drought?
Okay, the main purpose for developing Lee Organic basically was to target small scale farmers, specifically in arid and semi-arid areas. And in most cases, you find that urban areas, most of them fall under that category, or they have small areas where they can do farming. So the most important thing that any crop requires is water, light, and nutrition. And so when we talk of food security, as much as rainfall can be a big factor, but in our case, we believe that what we need is water. And so food security can be handled or can be tackled by people approaching agriculture in a different form. We've been approaching agriculture as just like a subsistent kind of occupation. But we can take agriculture as a professional or simply as a way, as an occupation that can bring in or can sort out the food security in the country. So what we've done, we've trained farmers on how to utilize small spaces by using aquaponics, hydroponics, and also using other media like bags, etc, etc. So the most important thing is that once they have the facilities, that means they have the media and they have the seeds, then I think they require is water. Definitely we have light, naturally occurring. And then the last thing we provide are the nutrients that crop requires. One, to grow faster, to have all the nutrients that the crop requires, and also to be resilient, so that at least we can also reduce the need for chemicals and other pesticide applications.
Okay, Paul, do you think the new way of farming in arid and semi-arid areas will help in curbing food insecurity as a main concern in our country?
Paradigm shift is a feature of farming in arid and semi-arid areas by focusing more not on rain-fed agriculture, but on either irrigation or any other form of water harvesting, then providing an alternative nutrients, and that is in this case we are recommending organic farming, so that at least the cost and also the effects of farming can be positive, so that at the end of the day, whatever we are going to grow should not only be to feed ourselves, but also should be nutritional or nutritious, and also should be of value to the farmer and also to the community. So let's say the future of food security is in arid and semi-arid areas, because these are the areas where we have vast land. These are the areas where we can do a lot of water collection. These are areas where we can do a lot of water pumps, and that is the only thing that we need for us to turn from food insecure nation into food secure nation.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
What if all of us came together to do something incredible? An anthem made from all of us.
There's a feeling for me and you. You can do.
Here's to the us in every tasker.
The Amazon forest has recorded high numbers of fires, with more than 85% since last year. This has destroyed many homes of indigenous tribes around there and causing dangers to millions of species around the Amazon. But the big question is, what impact does the Amazon fire have on the world climatic changes? And why is the Amazon fire such a big deal? Our reporter has the latest on this.
Amazon forest has experienced quite a number of wildfires that is threatening the extinction of world's largest forest. The fires caused by human activity as well as natural activities have proven to be a daunting task to put out, as the government has also reduced its budget on environmental responsibilities. Amazon, the home to quite a number of plant and animal species, is also a significant source in curbing the climatic problems. Dr. Aya tells us more about the importance of Amazon forest to the world's climate.
The fires that were experienced at the Amazon forest have a very big impact on the environment as a whole, which is affecting the whole world. We know that the Amazon, being the largest forest in the world, it consists of several animals, plants, and all other kinds of living organisms. And so when the fire broke out, the effect is that, number one, it has reduced the forest cover, and by reducing the forest cover, that has affected the rainfall pattern. Not only where the Amazon forest is, but it has also affected the rainfall pattern throughout the world. We also know that the Amazon forest, because of the fact that it has a variety of species of trees and animals that are very much useful for human health, that its destruction has also affected the source of medicine by so affecting the pharmaceutical companies there. But we also know that a forest is a very important source where the carbon dioxide that we breathe out is absorbed, and so by the destruction of the forest, it has affected the storage of carbon dioxide.
With the Amazon forest holding 20% of the world's oxygen, the big question is, what impact does the Amazon fires have on the world's climatic changes? Barile Ali, reporting for Specs News, Nairobi.
Joining us live is Dr. Geoffrey Kinuthia, a lecturer and also an environmentalist at Daystar University. Dr. Kinuthia, thank you for joining us. And on to our first question. Why is the Amazon fire such a big deal to the world?
Forest fires are a big deal because the fires destroy the biodiversity. They also destroy the beauty of the landscape, and they also destroy the water catchment areas. And there are so many economic activities that are associated with the natural forest. So all those ones are destroyed, plus also the biodiversity, the many plant species and the animal species. So when there is a fire, all those things are destroyed. And actually, all those things, we look at them as a national heritage for any nation. So when they are destroyed, they really, so many things are lost.
Thank you for that. So what do you think are some of the causes of fire in the Amazon forest?
There are many causes of the fires. They could be natural, they could be artificial. Natural fires can be triggered by factors like lightning. They can also be triggered by factors like volcanicity. And also there are also artificial causes like cigarettes, campfires. We also have things like when people are doing economic activities in the forest, they end up triggering a lot of many things that can bring about fire. And also sometimes there are issues like flammable gases. Sometimes you may find a situation where organic materials are decomposing and releasing flammable gases like biogas. Such gases can also bring about such fires.
Okay, thank you. What do you think are some of the impact that the Amazon fire has on the world's climatic changes, considering that Amazon carries 20% of the world's oxygen?
See, when there are fires, forests, those are organic materials that are burning, and they release so many greenhouse gases. Now, greenhouse gases are able to trap and retain heat in the lower atmosphere, and when that heat is near the surface of the earth, the surface temperatures increase, and when the surface temperatures increase, then we get a global warming, and global warming now brings about changes in the weather patterns and also climate. Now, it has also been understood that these emissions, the greenhouse gases, they contribute to an extent to the ozone depletion. And when the ozone depletion occurs, then again, this one leads to changes in temperature inversion, and changes in climatic and weather patterns, and when all those things come about, then and they take time for long, or rather they take long, then you end up having climate change and change in the weather patterns.
And on to our last question. How can deforestation be stopped at the Amazon forest?
I agree with you that forests are very important in replenishing oxygen in the air. You see, green plants carry out photosynthesis, and one of the products of the photosynthesis is oxygen. So when green plants are photosynthesizing, they release oxygen into the air, and that is one of the ways in which we get it replenished. Now, one of the ways in which it can be, dealt with is that you can come up with strict policies of managing it, and also protecting the forest, or even fencing the forest and having them protected and taken care of, so that you don't have any people, many people going into such forests and bringing about such threats. And also, it could also be you come up with ways like strict punishment for those ones who are caught, messing up forest, so that it becomes a lesson to many others.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Geoffrey Kinuthia from Daystar University. And on to our last story of the day. China as an emerging market has shown tremendous growth over the last 10 years, taking over many economies of the world. China has built many infrastructures and also given loans to many African countries. But we're asking today, what could China be really up to in the African continent? Our reporter Anthony Baki has more on this.
China as an emerging market is Africa's biggest trade partner, with Sino-African trade topping $200 billion per year. China owns more than 10,000 Chinese firms that are currently operating in Africa, valuing to more than $2 trillion with $3 billion currently investment on the table. Since 2011, China has been the biggest player in Africa's infrastructure boom, claiming 40% share that continues to rise. It is estimated that by 2020, China will import more oil worldwide than United States. To guarantee future supply, China is heavily investing in the oil sectors in countries such as Sudan, Angola, and Nigeria. Secondly, China's investment in Africa opens a huge market for Chinese exported goods, which might facilitate China's effort to restructure its own economy away from labor-intensive industries. With China slowly taking over African economy, the big question is, could China see Africa as a logical place to extend its geopolitical influence? Reporting for Specs News, Anthony Baki.
Joining us live is Mr. Jimna Waweru, an economist and also a lecturer at Daystar University and among the founders of the School of Economics in Daystar University. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Waweru. And on to our first question, Mr. Jimna Waweru. China as an emerging market has shown great success in the African economies. What is your take on that? Looking at that, the fact that many other African countries like Nigeria, the West African countries have succeeded in this, and since like the other African countries won't follow this, what is your take on that?
I'm not sure I agree with the concept of taking over, but there is a sense in which China is taking up some space that was possibly left by the traditional donors, mainly the colonizers, like traditionally Britain, France, Germany, and even multilateral agencies like IMF and World Bank. So I think China got an opportunity to come in, because there was that vacuum. Remember, nature abhors a vacuum. Anytime there is a vacuum, something will occupy the same.
Okay, on our second question, do you think China is actually genuine in giving Africans their loans? Or is it another way of colonization?
Initially, I was actually of the view China was coming in to help. And initially, remember, they came, identified very productive infrastructural ventures that they partner in, and it was okay. Besides when somebody comes in a subtle manner, very politely, you don't see whether they are underlying interests. So China came in. Remember, our major traditional donors started giving very many conditions to African nations, really. And from 80s to 90s, we had this concept of structural adjustment programs. Some people coined the concept of conditionalities. You're giving, before I give you this facility, there are these conditions you must meet. But China comes in and gives no conditions. They are willing to give you money. Little did we know that this money was going to become a problem, because I am of the view we have gotten to a point where the money we've gotten from China, for example, in the case of Kenya, is happening also in Ethiopia and in West Africa, is becoming a problem, because the interest rates are much higher than what World Bank would have charged, possibly, or even other bilateral donors. Besides, there is a sense in which you feel like, I don't want to call it neo-colonialism, but you feel like they are doing more than just giving us money. If you look at the way we are managing, for example, in the case of Kenya's SGR, they are the ones who get the returns. Of course, the expectation is that they will recoup their money from there and pay off whatever they lend to Kenya. But the interest rates are still running. In fact, I'm of the view we are getting to a point where we may have reverse flow of funds. That they give us, say, for example, $1 billion, but because of repayments and interest, in a year we may pay 1.2. So one wonders who is helping.
What do you think should the African countries do to avoid all the loans that come from China, or rather over-dependence on China as a support system to them?
Borrowing is not bad. It is what you do with borrowed funds. Even for serious commercial interests, like banks, if they are really interested in your well-being, they will ask you a number of things. What are you going to do with this money? How are you going to invest it? So that their returns or repayment is guaranteed. But the problem is, China comes in, asks nothing, sets no conditions, doesn't even follow to know whether whatever has been lent is used for the intended purpose. That is actually where the problem is. Because you get money, a lot of billions of dollars, not necessarily going to the specific project, meaning part of it is possibly pilfered or it goes into corruption, but we will still, African countries will still pay. So I think the starting point would be to negotiate facilities that have low interest yield, or are not as demanding when it comes to paying, and then that African countries channel these funds to the required projects. That is what will help. Okay. But dealing with China is not bad, but it's the way we are dealing with it.
Okay. And on our last question, do you think there are some of the consequences that could come along with China giving Africans the loans they're giving right now?
Any other commercial concern, when you lend money, you expect it back. And not just the principal, but interest. If we get to a point where we can't be able to pay this money, the chances are part of our facilities will be taken or managed by China for so many years until they recoup or they recover their money and interest. And unfortunately, anytime you get this money, sometimes you guarantee using assets, existing companies. In our case, it was actually Kenya Ports Authority. The Mombasa port was given, it is rumored, as a guarantee. You know, when you guarantee an asset and you're not able to pay, that guaranteed asset or company is what will be used to pay whatever is owed. Yeah. And that can go on for many years, like happened in the case of Sri Lanka. For 99 years, a facility that is state-owned stopped being state-owned and is owned by China for so many years. And I fear a number of African countries may be heading there. But leading us will be Kenya and Ethiopia, unfortunately.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, Mr. Jimna Waweru. And that brings us to the end of our news today. But before I leave, I would like to leave you with a quote that says, "Tough times don't exist, but tough people do." So I believe you're a tough person and you can get through all this. The conversation or our news updates continue on our social media handles on Twitter, on Facebook at ITV24 #IsPetsNews. Until next time, I've been your host, Yar Ajak Deng. Do have a great time.